business after I got laid off, and I was like, I don't want to go back to working for a person. That was kind of my vow. I felt like it was a little bit of I called it a promotion, that I was no longer, I didn't have to work for anybody. So yeah, that's how I kind of got started with WordPress, and that's my story summarized.
And I think what's the reason why I wanted you to join our group today is a lot of us are thinking of moving into solopreneur roles where we work for ourselves and we build a business. So
Yeah.
it was sort of difficult at first. What was the big breakthrough, or what kind of background or training did you get in addition to what you got in college to make you successful?
Okay, so there was a book that I read, and I mean, like, okay, college was great, but I probably wouldn't go back if I had the opportunity to do it again all over from the start, and I knew what I knew now. I would not go to college. I would not go get a degree. I would do the research that I did. A couple of books helped me. The process of creating websites, one of the books that I read was by a guy named Jesse James Garrett, and it was called The Elements of User Experience. And it gave me a really good workflow for building websites from scratch, like all the way from concept to completion. That was a really good book. And then there was another book out by, I can't remember the name of the guy, but it was a book that said it takes more than talent. And it's all about the business side of graphic design. And so I love that book. That was a really good book. It helped me out a lot of the business aspect of planning and stuff like that. So I had set this goal while I was in college and still working at the shoe store. I was like, I hate being, cooped up in one place, selling shoes out of the store. I had to clock in every day. And so I was very interested in the business side of graphic design. And so I began to plan my business out while I was still in college. I began to put a lot of documents together for proposals and just kind of map out. I even called several people who were solopreneurs. I did an interview with them and wrote a paper, a kind of in-depth research paper on it. And so those things helped me along. And the book, It Takes More Than Talent, I can't remember the name of the author. That book was another one. It had an orange cover at the time. I have it somewhere, but it's a very good book. He was part of the, not Graphic Artists Guild, but there's another Graphic Artists Association because there were several graphic artists associations that I was a part of as well.
Like AIGA, maybe?
AIGA. I was a part of American Institute of Graphic Arts. I was a part of the Student Photographic Society, and I was a part of the Graphic Artists Guild, all three of those. And they offer like plenty of business resources for solopreneurs. And so I just took parts of what everybody offered and kind of formulated my own plan for what I wanted to do. And
so what brought you to California? Because you said you started up in Houston.
Yes.
Why did you here? And then what was the journey like?
Oh, what was the journey? Okay. I was following my heart at the time. Okay. I had a girlfriend over here in California. That's why.
Okay. All right.
So that was the whole issue. That was the only reason I was coming out to California. I was like, well, I'm a solopreneur. I don't have any restrictions. I can travel and work. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. And so part of my excuse was my dad lives in Vegas. And he was really sick as well. He had some heart issues, some kidney issues and stuff like that. I haven't spent a lot of time with him. So I was like, I'm going to go live with my dad in Vegas for a little while, but I'll also eventually move to California. Mm-hmm. So my journey was Texas, Houston, Texas, Vegas, and then Southern California.
No, go ahead. I was going to say, I know you're really active in the Riverside business community. For the folks here that are looking to do the same in Santa Clarita, talk about some of the steps there or some of the connections that you made in terms of the business community that helped your business grow.
Okay. So I've gotten connected with, because Corona and Riverside are they're like twin cities. And so I do a lot within Corona and Riverside. We have 3 meetup groups. 1 is in Corona, and then 2 are in Riverside. And I basically met the city economic developer for the city of Riverside and the city of Corona around the same time. It was a couple of years back. I met both of them and sat down and talked with them, and like their vision and their goal for here in Southern California and really kind of in the Inland Empire, we're trying to build a rising tide of like tech entrepreneurship in this entire region. And so, we had a Riverside Startup Week 2 years back, and then we renamed it to Inland Empire Startup Week last year. And both of those years, I've done like 2-hour workshops there with them. And then here in Corona, that was in Riverside, but in Corona, we have a meetup group that we started called Techo Tuesday. And it's just basically inviting entrepreneurs and people in the tech community, like different startups, out to Corona. Now, the thing is like being a WordPress person, sometimes people try to pinhole you into like one corner and say, oh, you do WordPress. But, the tech community is vast, and WordPress is a part of that. And so, we have the focus of trying to build tech businesses through the Techo Tuesday, but we're also looking for people who are creating products. Like, we have, my friend is the one who, he's doing the Techo Tuesday. He leads it up. I don't lead that up. My friend Chris, he has a company called AppCore Labs, and they develop mobile applications. But I do as much as I can to provide a ton of support, because he supports us, and we use their building or their offices for our developer meetup group. And so I just met with those two people from the city. Try as much as you can, maybe to find out who the economic development advisor is for that city. Meet with them, and I'm sure everyone's interested in doing tech now. You know what I mean? They want to be the next Silicon Valley.
Of course, and we have a SCB Startup Week. I think it's coming up soon. So there's the same resources here, but I know for I wanted to expose them to the process. So in case they want to get started, how they would do that. And then in terms, just talk about some of the clients you work with and some of your favorite projects.
All right. So I work with tons of clients. My favorite tend to be like in the genre of marketing. But it really takes over my life if I'm not like scaling up and hiring virtual assistants, which I'm in the process of hiring a new one. And I've worked with plenty, like, I have, at one point in time, I had a team of 8 web developers. At this point, I've scaled it down, and I'm just working with a personal virtual assistant. But the marketing ones are really awesome. Doing like in the beauty industry was one of the big marketing ones. At this point, I'm working also with a company, a women focused company that is, creating training for women only. Well, it's not women only, but it's girls going Forex. So they trade in the stock market and things like that. And then I have small businesses like, window cleaners. One of my customers sells window screens, and then another one is like surrogates. They do surrogacy for people. And then, I'm just naming some off the top of my head that recently I've had interactions with. Mm-hmm. So it's usually small to medium-sized businesses that I'm working with, and they're just getting started, and they need their brand built out. So we'll go in and help them, create a consistent look and feel across every electronic platform. We call them touch points. Mm-hmm. And so every touch point needs to be needs to have the same brand identity. And then we work on creating their message, and that message they use in their campaigns to market online or create their content. Mm-hmm. It depends on what they are really desiring, and it does depend on their budget as much, because if they want it but they don't have the budget, we'll just like break it up into phases. Mm-hmm. And so we'll go as far as mapping out a social media calendar or a complete content calendar for them. And then after helping them map out that content calendar, having analytics set up, and going through like monthly meetings where we analyze what's going on their platforms, what decisions should they make from here, how can they increase traffic, and then eventually conversions, which is really what it's about, getting them to actually sell online. And so that's really the goal with my clients. And, like most of them are small to medium business, a lot of small businesses. The one thing that you can get into a trap of if you're working with small businesses is that the problem of like their budget. And so one of the things that I did is I actually have set like kind of a standard package for all small businesses, and the scope is not unpredictable. It's already predefined scope of what they're going to get with like a website and hosting, and I do it all for like $2,500, or $2,400, and then I have several clients on that package because that package is one that they can pay over 12 months. And over the 12 months, we're working with their brand, helping to build traffic. That's the biggest thing. It's building content and helping them build traffic. If they can feel like they're getting some sort of results, then they feel like it's worth it,
All right. In terms of, you were one of the inspirations for me to do this Saturday meetup because you have one in Riverside.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about what you do at your meetups and how people can level up in WordPress. A lot of people that are here today are new to WordPress. What would be your top 3 tips on learning WordPress and leveling up?
Top 3 tips, man. It's so much. It is so much to go over with WordPress. So just to level up in WordPress, is that the correct?
Yeah. Any tips that you would give? It could be anything.
Okay. Because I'm very systematic about what I like to do. I'm a big picture person, and I like to be systematic about the things that I do. I would say try to develop a system, number one, for your learning, and as you learn, like you're not going to learn everything, but you should learn the fundamentals. Like Michael Jordan or any great athlete, first you got to learn to dribble really good. You know what I mean? Number one, get the fundamentals down. Understand, if you're doing the work, understand the fundamentals of what a post type is, all the things. I actually put together a free course for my people at the meetup group. It's like a 37 module video course. It's at WP Theme Setup Guide. It's a free course, and they could go there, and that's all the fundamentals. But learn the fundamentals of the topic, and once you get the fundamentals down, then move on. That's tip number 1. And I mean fundamentals not only of like administration, but fundamentals of content management, fundamentals of the web, like web technologies. You may not be able to code right now, but you should at least try to learn the fundamentals or the basics of that, because eventually you want to hire people who do that as contractors possibly, and maybe employees eventually. But you want to hire them, but you can't really, like you won't be able to know everything that they do, but you should at least understand the direction in which they should go. You know what I mean? Tip number 2, make lots of connections. If you want to level up with your WordPress, like make lots of connections. And when you make those connections, do things for them that, you don't feel like, may be huge, but I mean, pay attention to like the details of like the important things for people. Like I have people in our meetup group who are going through cancer and things like that right now. I call them up, make real relationships basically, make those real relationships. And I mean, it doesn't always have to be on a business tip. Go out to the movies with them, eat lunch and dinner with them, just make connections, because like the better your group does, the better you're going to do. And if you're involved with the group, and people are not doing well in the group, I mean, like it's not going to do good. But like we have a pretty good community here in the Inland Empire, because number one, people are willing to be a part of it, and they're willing to kind of step in and fill in. Like, I feel like I could go to another country and the meetup group will continue.
Oh, that's good.
And that's a big thing, you know. If I'm not in the United States, it's still going to go on because we have Greg Franklin, we have Josh Knapp, we have Jess Boctor, we have Lisa from Magnify Web. And, you know, all of these people could be considered like doing the same thing that I do, but they really don't because we all do our own unique thing and we all help each other. And so that's number two. Tip number two, make good connections, make real connections, and be dependable, you know, within those relationships.